I'm Marinique Mora. I'm from Brooklyn and I identify as Black Latina or Afro-Latina. I think it means a couple of things. So for me, it means that you're Afro-descended. It means that you have lineage in Latin America. And it means that you yourself identify as Black. It's really interesting that it's a new category of identifying yourself. I think when I was younger, I didn't really understand the difference or people's distinction in being Latino and being Black. I think in first grade, there was this kid who was asking me and a Puerto Rican girl what they were. And I was like, oh, I'm Colombian and Puerto Rican. She said that she's Puerto Rican. He's like, oh, I thought that you were Black. And then I was like, I am. And then she was like, well, I'm also Black also. My mom is Black. And he was dumbfounded by the differences. And it was the first time that I actually thought of those two things as being distinct. My parents didn't really, my mom is Black, my dad is a mixed Puerto Rican, and there was never any question whether I was Black, whether my mom was Black. But I do know that my grandmother had this ideal where for years she would tell me oh, why don't you straighten your hair and stuff like that. And I think that was the first time within my family that I was there's this aesthetic that is preferable to older generations and Latinx as a whole. It wasn't until college. For me, I was I'm Puerto Rican, Colombian, cool. But then I met real Puerto Ricans and they're oh, well you don't understand, you weren't born there, you don't get it. And also because I was Black too, there's you don't look at me and automatically think that I'm Latinx. So it made me realize the difference between being a New York Latino, Latina, and actually being of the culture. So that distinction was interesting. And also the fact that I don't speak Spanish, it made it a little bit harder because I think a lot of people are oh, well, you can prove it by speaking Spanish to me right now. And I'm I can't do that either. But ultimately I'm I don't owe anyone an explanation. I don't owe you shit. I know who I am, and that's all that matters. It makes it so much easier. To have to get into the dichotomy and everything and explaining history and shit, because I think a lot of people expect that. And I don't have the energy half the time. But I'm also coming to a point where I'm questioning the term Latino, Latinx also. I think it's so limiting. When I say Afro-Latino, it gets specific. And when people say, oh, I'm Latino, I can say the N-word, I can do this, I can do that. That's when the gray area comes about. So I'm still trying to figure out that aspect of how I identify, but for me, I also really like to be specific. I'm Puerto Rican and Colombian. That specifically are the two cultures that my family are from, and that's how I see myself.